Welcome to episode 119 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, and I am kind of going solo today. Hopefully going to be able to make it through properly. My co-host, Jeanette Leeds, our COO, is, I think, on a beach someplace right now as we are recording. So she wins, I lose. Speaking of losers, Ryan Kohler, who is going to spend the next 14-ish minutes with me, definitely therefore even more on the lost side of the column. But Ryan, good
Yeah.
to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about kind of how employers can make better use of their applicant data, treat the applicants better as they maybe come back. But before we get into that, you're kind of a serial entrepreneur. You've started a couple companies here and there. Maybe you can help our audience sort of better understand your background, how you know about this kind of stuff. And why don't we start off with Applicant Pro?
Yeah, 100%. Recovering accountant, studied accounting in college, got an MBA. Luckily, got an accounting job at a tech company, early learning management company. I mean, we were shipping DVDs and VHS cassettes, and like the very beginning of you can log into Internet Explorer to watch your training videos at work, but we still had to ship you a DVD because the internet sucks so bad for
I don't
streaming.
know if I'm having fond memories or PTSD
Oh
flashbacks,
no, it was
but
awesome. But yeah, somebody asked me, we started doing web marketing. Somebody asked me to build an applicant tracking system. I'm not a programmer. So I had
okay.
a part-time mom programmer that worked for me. And yeah, a couple of behavioral assessment resellers out there were like, hey, we have hundreds of clients. We need an applicant tracking system. This was like 80% of the market had never even seen one before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we built one, grew and scaled that from one part-time mom employee to 280 employees, 80% mom. So like the whole company, other than programmers, was mostly mom, kind of coming in through support. And then we would turn them into salespeople and success people and product managers and all that kind of stuff. This massive force of moms. And I was paying for all their house cleaning. And so
Oh,
but yeah, scaled that from, and off of like 40 grand to almost $40 million in revenue and 10,000 companies. And so if you imagine, I've either written or created the ability to write like tens of thousands of job ads at this point. We were
yeah.
all very much like expansion of the top of the funnel. Could we target better, higher quality candidates using job ads and more marketing tactics? Could we make it so that there was less friction to apply while also maximizing the information we got, et cetera? And I stepped down from there, sold the company to iSolve, stepped down 3 years ago, a month before ChatGPT came out,
Okay.
and then spent 10,000 hours in ChatGPT and Manus and Lovable and you name it, I've used it.
And you still have your sanity.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. And then 10 years ago, I started Refer as an answer to what are we doing with all these people that come to the career site and
Yeah.
apply and then don't get hired? Because if you're a recruiter, like recruiter and staffing, you might remarket. You have a
Yeah.
financial incentive. But if you're corporate HR, you just kind of like say, oh, we'll get back to you. Clearly we put your resume on file, which is, yes, it's in the database, but we never look at it. And so we fired up Refer, which was let us let you know the next time this company posts a job. So last year we sent just under 2 billion emails with about a 53% open rate. We'll have almost 30 million active subscribers by the end of this year. And so, our job is, hey, can we tell you about jobs that are open, but more importantly now, can we help you identify how to progress your career, how to use AI to get a better job, how to prepare for what's coming, which is a massive reshuffling of the entire workforce.
Yeah. So Refer kind of sits on top or adjacent to the ATS.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we sit on top of it, we inhale all the jobs, kind of like clean that up. We take all the applicants that, we remarket to as well as new applicants and kind of like match them up and pair them up. It's kind of like ZipRecruiter without the functional job board, but much more in their inbox.
Yeah, yeah. The ATS is a sort of the job board for the one
Uh-huh.
employer, and Cindy comes in and applies for customer service role. Maybe she's great, maybe she's not well qualified for that. Maybe it's just the raw timing is wrong, but you stay in touch. Refer basically stays in touch and says, "Hey, Cindy, I think there's another job that is of interest to you. Tell me about AI for teams."
Yeah, so like I said, 3 years ago, I stepped down and kind of was like, 2-year non-compete, non-solicit, all the HR people that were no longer hearing from me. All my employees are, now working for a different company or working for the company and I'm no longer there. And so I went all in on ChatGPT with this like, how will this be used at work? It was very clear to me early that I'm like, okay, this is going to change every single job. And so, and that's interesting. This is the first time in a long time we'd had a new technology that was this broad, meaning it's going to touch every single job in the workforce.
Yep.
But immediately everybody's chopped down to zero on the starting point. Like nobody's seen this type of tech before. You have these stacks of layers of leadership and management who are equally stupid about this brand new tech. And
Yeah.
still to this day, like a huge lack of understanding and use case of the leadership of teams to know how our employees would even use this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard people say you have to go back decades to see anything that would be similar to it, and because of how quickly it entered the everyday life, there really has been nothing like it. Like,
Yeah.
people have drawn analogies to the introduction of the telephone, but that took decades, and the car and things like that, where nobody was born knowing a car. So, like, in 1890, nobody had driven a car. 20 years later, millions had.
Yeah, so yeah, there honestly isn't a comparison because you have this broad tool that is clearly moving rapidly, but it's also like, it's akin to somebody showed up in your neighborhood and dumped an entire truckload of magic wands on the ground and drove away. It's not tangible. Like, you log in, it looks nothing like a user interface we've seen. There's not like the core menu
Right.
bars and all the functionality. It's not pre-built. It's a blank canvas. It's like, here's this magic wand. It can do anything. Now, figure it out. It is clearly a tool that was designed with like early adopters in mind that when they see a blank canvas go, let me start painting.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
for the average person who's like, show me how it's supposed to work. And then all of the use case is behind the scenes. It's all in my inbox. So you have no idea. The average person, if you ask them how good they are with it, they're going to over index because they've never seen anybody else use it. They have no concept of what great use is or bad use because they just know their use.
Right. Yeah, it's not like playing a multi-level game where you get smoked, 3 seconds into every session and you know you're not as good as somebody else.
Hi, I'm Stacey Nordwall, host of Toot or Boot, the show that boots burnout culture and calls out corporate nonsense. Each week, I talk with bold leaders and good troublemakers who are rewriting the rules of work. We dig into what's broken, what's working, and how to build something better with a mix of practical advice and humor. If you're ready for a healthier, more human workplace, this is your show.
We were talking in the green room about the from your background with the ATS, and also refer with remarketing, job opportunities, staying in touch with the candidates. One of the things that you see and we at College Recruiters see this too, is that a lot of employers will talk about their frustration with the glut of applications. We're getting way too many applications than we know what to deal with. I think you and I agree that is absolutely something that we're hearing. In a lot of cases, it's absolutely true, but it doesn't end there. And you were making the point that there's also a scarcity of fit. Talk to that if you would.
Yeah, I would say that 2026, and we're going to see it more in 2027, is the biggest disruptive change in recruiting that we have ever seen. And anybody who doesn't get that needs to sit down and just think about when every job becomes somehow AI enabled, it literally is changing the job description, but we don't know how it would change it because we don't even know what that means. But yeah, so what's happening is, you know, Indeed and ZipRecruiter love them to death. We're very candidate centric, and their goal in the world was say we got to make it easier for candidates to apply. And
Yes.
so they brought in Indeed, which improves the candidate experience. So they brought in apply integrations and all that kind of stuff, and build a profile, and you can use the profile to apply. And us ATS guys, we integrated with them, and we made this crazy frictionless process for you to apply.
Which was great in 2022 and 2023,
Oh yeah.
when the employers were starved for
That
applicants.
means that it's now substantially easier to apply to 10 jobs than it used to be to one, or let's
Yeah.
say 100 to one.
Yeah.
So if it takes the same amount of work to apply to 100 jobs as one job, the kind of like resistance of being picky about the jobs you apply, well, it went down.
Yep.
And so now I'm applying to way more jobs. Then we bring in the second part. We bring in ChatGPT that says it's now easier for me to make my resume look great.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Meaning I can take my resume plus the job I want to apply for, throw it to ChatGPT with some random prompt off of TikTok and say, make my resume look awesome. And as a job seeker, I look at it and go, oh my gosh, I sound great. And write my cover letter and write my answer the job questions. This is awesome. And I apply. And this is the definition that most people don't get of AI slop. And by AI slop, I mean it sounds the same as everybody else. It works great if I'm the only person who does it, but if everybody does that same thing, so it's not just we're getting more, it's that we're getting more that all sound effectively the same. They
Yeah.
all sound like we have the most qualified applicant pool in history because AI is shining the apple on everybody. And so as a recruiter, you're looking at going, okay, so now I'm getting 500 applicants a job instead of 50, and they all sound effectively like they're a good fit.
Hmm.
What am I supposed to do with that? Because then I get into the interview process. I'm like, wait. Was not a fair representation of this person's qualifications. This was the shiniest job anybody's ever done on a resume times everybody.
And so the signal from the resume kind of vanishes.
Oh yeah.
So is there a scarcity of fit, or is that just the perception?
So the answer probably is A, right now it depends on the role.
Okay.
And B, right now, I would say if you are not feeling like a scarcity of fit, that something needs to happen in the next 6 months. And that's number one, do I know what the future of this job looks like
Mm,
with AI? And that means like every white collar job, anybody who's sitting at a computer, if you have a company other than like your POS, but if you're sitting at an actual desktop or an actual laptop computer running it, every one of those jobs right now in the next 6 months needs to be restructured to say, here's how it goes from they're doing the job to they're like doing it with AI to they're managing AI doing the job. And so it'd be akin to every single blue white collar worker, every single office computer worker becoming a manager of an assistant that does the job. That's a complete refactor of every single job.
two things I want to make sure that we touch on before we leave, because you have some really good thoughts on them. One is employers doing some high volume hiring. They get 1,000, 2,000 applications for, say, 10 open seats. So they've got 2,000 resumes from people, some of whom are a good fit, some of whom are not. Filter out the bots, filter out the people who shouldn't have applied to begin with, but you're still going to be left with at least hundreds, maybe over 1,000. I'm going to want you to talk about what to do with those people. I also want to talk about when those people come back 3 months later, a year later, 3 years later, and again raise their hand and say, I'm still interested in working for you, or maybe I'm again interested in working for you. For our TA friends, what should they be doing about those candidates who are good but not hired, both right away and then 6 months, 2 years later?
So first part on the screening, don't buy into the AI hype. The problem with the AI matching is
Yeah.
that by default, we've been really lazy from an AI standpoint. We're matching a job description to a resume. This is apples and oranges. It's like Spanish to English.
Yeah.
If you're going to do any type of matching, you used to be matching my best employees' resumes versus the resume of the applicant. That's the
Mm,
number one way to clean up the filter is like match apples to apples, not apples to oranges. But secondly, almost all ATSs have some type of job question set up.
yeah.
Go spend some time on the job questions.
The knockout questions,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Clean up your knockout questions so that you're really good at actually asking direct questions about what makes you a fit or not, so that you aren't looking at the resume at all. We're just jumping right into there to get to that first part. So that's probably number one. Number two, there's a huge difference between somebody who applies a second and third time, meaning they're following you and they're getting your alerts, versus a first timer. And we may think, well, we denied them the first time, so they're not a good fit. But the world is changing. Like I said, all these jobs are changing.
Mhm.
These jobs are refactoring. But it's really, do you want a candidate who's just looking for a job? Or do you want a candidate who wants to work for you as an
Mhm.
employer and the job is secondary? And I can tell you the quality of candidate is much higher When you have a follower, they like your company first. They would like to figure out where they fit in at it is a different quality of candidate than I just want any sales job.
Hmm.
And so if you think about it from that perspective, yeah, they're not as good as an employee referral, but they're a fan. And if I look at it from that aspect and go, well, how can I make them a bigger fan? Well, these job alerts, instead of just sending these past applicants random, hey, we're still hiring, send them your careers, send them like your values, your what you do, what your culture is about. Start to educate them on why they should want to work for you. And you're going to see it will bring to the top people who are loving your culture and your values and your mission and want to find a way to fit, which is very different than somebody who's just saying, I want any job that's in sales.
Yeah.
But that requires that remarketing. So it's not just alert, 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 here's all our jobs. It's do we have a message that will matter and resound and will build an actual relationship between our vision, mission, values, culture, and this person instead of just job, 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 job. That right there completely changes the quality of those reapplies because now you're actually building this relationship over a period of time.
Yeah, I've heard people describe those sorts of, I hesitate to call them alerts. They're more like e-newsletters,
Mhm.
as being somewhat similar to the letters that we get from friends and family at like Christmas time. Right?
Right.
Like, little Johnny went off and did this. Well, you can talk about your new CEO, your new product, the fact that you just expanded and now you're operating in Belgium. You know, you received some kind of an award for great customer. That's the kind of stuff that employees that I think make a difference really care about. You might not put as many butts into seats as inexpensively. And if the company's reward systems for recruiters is set up that way, that's another topic for another podcast episode, but this is great. Well, cool. Ryan, thank you so much. I've got your LinkedIn URL up at the bottom there, and I love the GPT for work. That's neat. It's been a pleasure, and I'll talk with you again.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks, Ben.
Cheers.